Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Jesse?
Here.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Here. Thank you. Ms. Williams, would you please lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Father God, once again, we are at this place, this brick building on side of the road. Father, we're calling on you this afternoon that we'll be able to come together, Father, to do things that cause us to grow together, Father, and do things that are good. Father, because we know that all good that we do, we represent you. And as we continue on, Father, strengthen us so we can think one for another, not being selfish about self. In Jesus' name, we all do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Matt, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would all citizens of our nation rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You have the meeting agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? No. We have the minutes to be approved as part of the consent agenda, and I did have one change to the minutes that I think is appropriate. This is under Puller Center renovation update. The minutes state that the major difference between the two options, other than the cost of the renovated building, is the existing building's already 43 years old, will have the minutes say 7 to 17 year life. I think that should be 17 to 20. Yeah. So with that correction, are there any other corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the chair and the board consider adding the county engineer's report that should be at your seats this evening under the first portion of the agency and staff reports, item I, sewer update.
Got that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. There are no other changes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I'll make the motion. All right, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda with the change.
Second.
Motion duly made and seconded. Would you take roll call?
Mr. Harris? Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Williams? Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough? Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion approved. Motion approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda. I'll open the floor for public comments. Do we have any comments? Do we have any have signed up for public comments? Anne Marie?
We have no public comment cards presented.
Would anybody like to address the board at this time? I will close the public comment period. Moving on to constitutional officers, the treasurer is pages 51 through 51 of your packet. Commissioner of the Revenue report, page 52 of your packet. Any comments on the board?
I have one comment. I noticed that in your personal property taxes going to be going up this year. Is it anything that will be done about anything as far as the amount of money you have to pay? In other words, some is changing the tax rate value bills to value more than what they were the year before. Some is giving full, some is on. Are we offering anything?
I'm not aware of any.
Right, I'm essentially, she's not here today, so I can't answer.
You want to follow up with me?
Yeah, I'll follow up with it.
Okay. Any other comments on constitutional officer reports? All right, agency staff reports. Agency staff reports. VDOT, Mr. McKnight. Mr. McKnight.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Lee McKnight. I'm here to give you a quick update in terms of VDOT in Middlesex County. Some maintenance highlights I wanted to bring up. The Route 17 bridge repair over the Dragon is complete. That project went very well. That was as a result of an accident, a two-car accident that damaged the bridge. We were able to repair the bridge pretty quickly, so I'm happy that the bridge is back open at minimal disruption to traffic, considering the circumstances. There will be some minor Urbana Bridge repairs scheduled for later this week, some concrete repairs on the walkway. Route 333, 624, and 712, we did shoulder repairs on those routes this week. 634, 636, 673, and 712, we did some ditching on those routes as well. 602 and 710 were pruned, and there was some brush removal work done on those routes. There was a tree that was removed on Route 622 Dirt Bridge that was overhanging the road. Went ahead and took that out. Primary mowing is complete. Secondary mowing is complete as well, countywide. We responded to impacts from Hurricane Ian this week, or over the weekend and early this week. Most of those impacts were tidal in nature. We did have some downed trees, but in general, we fared pretty well, thankfully. Just wanted to give a really quick highlight of what our service requests look like in Middlesex County for over the last month. We received a total of 29 work orders. 17 of those remain open, 12 are closed for an average days to close of 2 days. The top 5, if you're curious, were dead animals, potholes, debris, drainage, and signs. Did want to note we're constantly getting ready for snow season. It's become a year-long ordeal for us at this point. But in the month of October, you may see us driving our routes with our plows on the front and the spreaders on the back. Don't be alarmed. We haven't lost our minds. We're just driving the routes, doing a dry run in Middlesex and in the other surrounding counties. So you may see that throughout the month, this month. Some supervisor requests I wanted to highlight. The Deltaville Shared Use Path work has begun, Mr. Kimbrough. They have begun environmental and utilities work down there for that project, so that's good news. The Route 740 Sports Complex Road work was scheduled to start this Monday, but Hurricane Ian had other ideas. We had to postpone that work, but we do anticipate to get some of the shoulders redone by the end of this week, and hopefully redo the surface of the road by the end of next week. That will be weather permitting. Some other supervisor requests, Deltaville, the Deltaville DIs, drop inlets. I have reviewed the area. There is some work planned around some of those drop inlets. I did review the vegetation. I didn't notice anything, but I'll get with you, Mr. Kimbrough, if there's anything outstanding in regards to that. And at this point, I will be happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on behalf of the Water Authority, just want to, as y'all do your canvassing of the community with the snowplows and whatnot, anything we can do to help VDOT identify the new water hydrants and blow-off valves and whatnot out there, let us know. We've had a citizen actually request a flag be placed on one hydrant that I'm forwarding on to the Water Authority for their review. But anything your drivers see that we need to take special measures to alert them to the presence. You know, in the middle of a blizzard, we do not want to be working a water leak or a water break. So.
Yes, sir. Will do.
The speed limit on Regency Road, I noticed you got, the signs up say 55. Are you all paying attention to the people that live in that area, whether you're gonna lower it back to 45, or just something y'all have made your mind up that y'all were sticking to that? You say you did the study or whatever you want to do. I ain't talking about a study. What I'm talking about is residents that stays in the area. Are y'all planning on doing anything? A simple thing we're not asking the sheriff department to put no deputies down there and say, hey, give everybody a ticket, because they gonna say he don't have nobody. So all we asking for is a sign. They're on Regency Road. You haven't done anything yet. Been almost a year, so that's one thing. And then another thing is that we had some bikers signed up a petition. I guess they had about 200 something, just asking for some lines and stuff, awareness coming through the county. We take notice here lately there's been a lot of bike accidents, and I think awareness would help. I think right on that road, if we start in Saluda, and we talking about the beautification, how to make something look better. Striping on the outside, we have better than 2.5 feet. If we could get some striping from Saluda, at least as far as Hartfield, maybe into Deltaville. Look at the roads and give us what we can, but to awareness, because we got to think along the safety line. And Road 619. Some friends of mine were traveling 619. Sometimes when you're right in the middle of something, you kind of don't pay it no mind. The road is splitting wide open. The road is too narrow. 619 from 33 to Star Mount Road. You got the school on the left-hand side, and they're doing a little work by the complex, but this is the road on the other end. It's a narrow road, and a few accidents have happened. Okay. I think, the road need to be widened. It need to be retarded. If we go on the other end of the road, Star Mount Road, you'll see, you would wonder why are you fixing this end of the road so much, and when they closed the bridge down, you did nothing to 619. 619 right in the middle of just said, well, we don't need anything done. So what I'm saying is a mile and a half. Now, we would appreciate it a whole lot if you can shake the bushes and get that road retarded and wide.
Okay, I'll review 619. Is this on the 33 side or the 3 side?
The 33 side? Just
Okay.
think about what you're saying very slowly. When you say 33 side, east and west. Just I don't want you to think about it now.
Okay.
But in a way, I'm saying some is laughing because they know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about on the right side going down.
Okay, I'll review Route 619. Okay. And then bike lanes on Route 33.
Yes. Like walking.
Sure.
The signs with walking, because you have ones that love to walk and stuff.
Okay.
In fact, some girls were riding the other day as I was on Star Mountain Road, and they were saying, when we gonna get? I said, well, okay. I said, I was so glad to see you sitting there this afternoon. I said, well, I'm not gonna call him a robot today. I'm gonna see what's gonna go. But anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir.
For listening.
I do have a follow-up about that and riding the bikes. There tends to be trash between the outer line and the edge of the pavement where the bikes would ride.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's a routine schedule to sweep that, because, I've ridden my bike and I have to ride around it and necessarily go into traffic. Is there a procedure for that, or?
In general, we do sweep at the end of the snow season to get any excess sand up, but there is not any plan to, full sail sweeping at this time. But we can look into that. Budget obviously will be the dictating factor on that, but we can look into that.
That would certainly help the
Yes, sir.
safety of being able to ride in that path. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and also on 603 up in Warner, heading to Mascot, there's a lot of old limbs that are over that need to be cut down.
Okay.
Because the last storm, one fell down there and a neighbor, moved it, ended up cutting it out the road because they didn't want anybody to have an accident. But I think they need to go down there and check those old limbs. There's a lot of old dead limbs that's hanging over.
That's 603, you said?
603, I think it's Folly Park. Folly Park Road, yeah, Folly Park Road, and head to Mascot.
Okay.
In Warner, yes, Folly Park.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lee, thanks for coming today. It's always nice when you're here that you can feel some of the questions that we have based on just a report only. So thanks for fielding those questions, and thanks for being here today.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. School Matters, Dr. Seitz is out today, but there is a budget supplement request on pages 55 through 56. This is to the appropriation request is for the local level administrative cost grant, USDA Food and Nutrition Service allocated funds to assist with administrative costs incurred by the local school authorities for P-EBT benefit issuance in school year 21-22. School divisions with 1,000 to 5,000 P-EBT eligible students receive $3,135. Since all of our students are eligible for free lunch under the Community Eligibility Program, we qualify for this amount. And that is the cover note from Dr. Tracy Seitz. The budget supplement request, FY 2023-14, is to appropriate SNP local P-EBT administrative cost grant funds into the fiscal 23 budget. Is there a motion for this request?
I'll make a motion we approve budget supplement request FY 2023-14.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, the social services update report only, pages 57 through 58 in your packet.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to give a little bit more voice to item 1 of her report. Indeed, they are wrapping up their assistance to King William County, but there are other counties that are experiencing a great deal of turnover at Department of Social Services, latest of which is Westmoreland County. We may be called upon to assist them a little bit, and I just want to publicly thank our director at Social Services and the wonderful employees we have. It's probably the highest compliment that people call on us to help when they need it. And I can't state enough the confidence that I have in that agency and the leadership of Ms. Rebecca Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you. She really does a super job. Next up is the elect. Don, we can't keep up with you. Next up is Melissa Welch from our electoral board.
Hi.
Welcome. Good to see you here as
Thanks.
always.
I miss y'all. I'm not actually presenting today. Mel is here. This is Mel Placilla. He's from the electoral board.
Hi, I'm Mel Placilla. I'm the Secretary of the Electoral Board. We're asking for a budget reallocation from travel to other operating expenses of $1,100. And the board felt it was important to highlight why we're doing this. Over the past few years, through John Scott's leadership, one of our board members, we've had a program where local restaurants have donated meals to people who work at the polls. Those folks work in excess of 12 hours, probably 14 or 15 hours that day. And the restaurants in town, across the county, have been very generous in offering these at no charge to the county. Unfortunately, the legislature in the last session decided that we could accept no money from outside sources, which then leads us to want to reallocate money so we can provide at least one meal to the people who work at the polls on Election Day. So that's the purpose of this budget reallocation. We would ask that you would consider it and approve it, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mel. So it's a transfer from travel to meals? Gotcha.
I make the motion of FY 2023-1 budget transfer request in the amount of $1,100 for travel and I guess other operating supplies of $1,100. Is that right? Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is Planning Year-End Report. This is a report only on page 60 of your packet. It shows the various planning and community development activities for 2020, 21, and 22. Although it's pretty informative about the level of activity in the county. The building permits issued were up in fiscal '22 from the prior year, 786 to 941. Now, we don't know exactly what those building permits were for, how major the activity was. New dwellings were 31 in fiscal 2022, and that compares to 45 in the prior year. There's a great deal of other information on this report. Any discussion or comments about the planning report? Okay, next up is the a draft resolution. Mr. Tripp Phillips is going to present. How are you today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are y'all?
Good. See you.
Good. I don't have too many prepared remarks. I see we're quite ahead of schedule, but I just wanted to thank Ms. Lewis for so quickly turning around this potential resolution that's in front of you all today. So what it is, it's a very short communication tool that we're looking at as KMB looks at it to demonstrate the county's support and the Board of Supervisors' support, both for KMB, but for our future communication efforts and helping establish an increased standard of how we look and perceive litter. And again, Supervisor Kimbrough, litter meaning paper, trash, rubbish, garbage that's on the typically on the side of the roadsides. How we look at that and view that moving forward. So it's very simple. It's very short. A short and sweet title. Zero tolerance for resolution. It is not meant to be an ultimatum or a mandate. Rather, an idealistic opportunity that we can strive to as a community. I'm happy to ask or answer any questions. My colleague, Aaron McFarland, he's in Richmond right now getting his forestry recertification, and otherwise he would be here as well. But I'm happy to offer or answer any questions that you all may have on the resolution before you.
Any questions?
I don't have any question, but Heather, you looked over it clearly and everything.
Yes, sir.
think that's good.
I put it in the appropriate format and had some small modifications, but the substantive of it, I believe to be legally appropriate. Content-wise, I defer to y'all's judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've got a draft resolution. Is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry I was late. I would make a motion, but I'm on this committee, so I'd really prefer if the motion would come from someone else, if that's possible.
I'll make the motion that we approve that resolution for the letter.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Discussion.
I have a question. Even in adopting this resolution, we realize that the enforcement of that may be extremely difficult with where we are with the sheriff department and their responsibilities. Everybody's aware of that, correct?
Yes, sir. And indeed, I think, I believe when Ms. Lewis and I first spoke about this many, many weeks ago, she made a very good clarification for me to bifurcate between compliance and enforcement. Indeed, this is meant as a tool to communicate and encourage better compliance and not to inundate the county resources with burdensome enforcement efforts.
Thank you.
And Don, I think it's a very good.
Your mic.
The mic now works when I turn it on. It's a really good question, and the sheriff had the same question when I brought this up to him, because KMB made a point of going to the sheriff and anybody else that would be touched by this, even if it's theoretical. And the whole point of this really is to just give KMB, something to point to. And the reality is it does call attention to a bigger issue that we have in our sheriff's office as we consider renovation versus building that department. We really need to look at what we're paying our deputies, and if we want them to enforce anything like speed limits in Piankatank Shores, we're going to need more deputies on the road, and we're going to have to address the fact that we can't hire enough deputies right now because we're facing the same shortages. So that point is a very, very solid one, Don, and I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more going forward.
Any other discussion?
We continuously, passing this resolution. It's pretty good, but like all of us aware of, the sheriff said, you don't have no manpower to do it. That he can't do it. Each one of us know that. So we can't look beyond that. And at the same time, I'm not willing to vote for anything that's going to have to add people to say they get a job done. And I'll stick with my guns, more but less, not just asking for more. And anybody else that keep on needing more to do something done, that means more you got to do yourself. We done got complacent. And we got to stop kidding ourselves, which is a little bit off guard. Now, everybody I can't do it because I need somebody else. A litter and stuff like this is fine, just like Mr. McKnight was here this afternoon. Keeping the grass cut will give you a good idea how to keep things clean. Sometimes you don't see that after you cut the grass. Then you find out how good a job you've done. And we can't force anything now. Nobody's back because all of us come to serve. Some serve and get paid, and they're still going to tell you the same thing, what they're not going to do. So we're in a very interesting, design. But I think, the county is not like it's running over. Most of everybody that came here. And when they came here, it was what's here was here. So that's not a mystery. So we don't have a site that is that bad. Could it stand a little bit of help? Yes, it could. Each one of us probably could stand a little bit of help and stuff at home, keep stuff cleaned up like it should be. But I just said, I'm just, the resolution, I'm going to support the resolution. And at the same time, I'm not going to support paying extra for any officers that you got to add to get the job done. I'm just making that clear.
This, to be sure, KMB, we're a community volunteer, and we are actively recruiting volunteers, and we have I think I mentioned last time, approximately 24 volunteers on standby waiting for trash bags, pickers, and just some guidance as to when and where we should hit the trash army, if you will. Mm-hmm. So indeed, we're very sensitive to utilizing county resources to the point that I'm very sensitive contacting Ms. Lewis, Mr. Walker, Ms. Riccardi about KMB matters, because I know they have.
I find it's pretty interesting what they're doing, trying to clean Richmond up too, isn't it? I mean, you know what's going on in Richmond, right? The city? They're trying to pick trash up and clean the streets up.
I'm not sure if I'm.
You're not aware that
fully
got
aware, no sir.
Individuals that come in and they're paying them so much for each a garbage bag of trash that they get. They load them on the truck, and I think you give them $2 a buck. Take the homeless and stuff off the street and give them to recognize, things to make money to do it with. Everything's free. Sometimes it's not always the greatest thing you can get in the world because it's got a backlash. I do you a favor today, and I want something back tomorrow. But I was doing a comparison in the city of Richmond is that, they got the garbage bags and some of the homeless and all this kind of stuff. And I guess some other ones come there full of garbage bags, something they got a truck, they load them on the truck. And they say it's working real good in Richmond, so we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Jesse, duly seconded by Mr. Harris. For roll call, please, Betty.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And your group. Next up, Mr. Funkhauser, EDA update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is hopefully the third and final draft you'll see of the ARPA Tourism Grant application. What I've included in your agenda package is, as best I could print it out because they don't have a print function, so it took a little creativity, basically pulled out the actual application pages because some members of the EDA wanted to see that type of thing and provide the same information to the board. Essentially, it is the same information that you've seen before. Some of the budget items were slotted a little bit differently than the way Whitney had presented them for discussion purposes, but that's just to fit the VTC budget. So this is like 95, 99% ready to go, except for your blessing, and I need to add the county's bank account number, even though people can probably get that a multitude of ways. I don't typically include that, so it's not in the version that you have before you. But again, it's the same application. I apologize, though, there's been one change. As of about 1:30 this afternoon, my memo statement therein became false because you don't see Miss Whitney Law standing beside me. She had a small family emergency. Unless I receive sufficient mercy, I might have to step aside and call her if I get any interesting questions or comments. But other than that, we are ready to proceed. We'll run this by the EDA one last time, and then I'll show the county administrator before I actually hit submit.
Do we need is this a consensus support, or do we need a vote?
I would recommend y'all vote on this one,
Okay.
and I would recommend the board support the endeavor based on the information presented this month and last.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman. There is one thing in here. I did not clarify with Virginia Tourism Corporation, even though we are the DMO and you've delegated that responsibility to us, a destination marketing organization, there is a boilerplate form letter that you may or may not have noticed that's for your, okay.
Did I sign?
Well, I'll put it on the proper format, and I noted that in the memo, but thank you. I just wanted to clarify that as well. That will also kind of put a bow on it. Technically, I don't think that's required, but because we're not working with another DMO, but you would need that letter. But better safe than sorry.
Okay.
I have a couple questions, Trent.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what page it is, maybe page 83, where you went over the proposed budget. And I show at the final scope of $120,000, and your contention is that we would qualify for the $120,000 grant to fund what we're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir. These are actually what are referred to, sometimes you hear the term set-aside funds as opposed to competitive funds. So these were funds that were set aside by the federal government, channeled to the states, and the states are administering them. Most of them are running this particular type of funding through their tourism corporation, but I'm not familiar with all the states.
Is 120 a max, or can you apply
is.
for larger amounts than that?
No, sir. It's a maximum, and this is one-time funding. So this will not come around again unless they're doing it in some other way, shape, or form, and we have some sort of similar economic situation, disaster, whatever you want to call it. But these are all funds that are associated with COVID relief and other federal programs that we're starting.
And the last question I got for you, in all of the prospectus stuff of to do a variety of whole lot of different things, digital awareness,
Right.
Blue Ridge Outdoors awareness, marketing consideration, Do you guys have the flexibility on 120,000? I know you've put down what you think it's going to cost for each one of those categories. Are you locked into that from the grant proposal of being able to expand on any one of those given
No, sir.
categories?
No, sir, that's not my understanding. We have a general framework, and we've talked with Laura Messer. She's our liaison with the Virginia Tourism Corporation, and she's kind of helped us through this. And when I've had questions about how much information do we need, and her point was essentially, you don't need to lock yourself in. You've got the broad categories that kind of meet our objectives. So once the plans, and they'll make comments on this, and if we have to come back before the board because of some change that when that goes through Virginia Tourism Corporation review, but generally, they're going to be pretty permissive. Now, you do have to document everything through proper procurement, and you spend in all the invoicing and that type of thing. But these are broad enough categories that we can kind of, put more money into content, we can put more money into print. These are just, some general figures for the overall budget and the application. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I had just a couple of concerns, and they really weren't concerns. It was just the allocation of how you're going to spend on a couple of these product creations, which in looking at them went, I'm not sure we really need that right now.
And Whitney was generous, if you will. Some of this might come in lower. And I'll give you an example. If we're trying to, I just sat on a call with the Heritage Committee, and then I've also, Museums of Middlesex has a kind of a pending application, if you will, before the EDA that's never really been addressed by the EDA. And both groups, want somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 for different components of different projects, some of which we might be able to fund through this, particularly the digital, where we can take some of their information and immediately use that with Virginia River Realm or our website, or both. So again, it's going to be kind of a works in progress, but we need to have that overall plan and what our general objectives are for VTC to kind of say, okay, these are parameters. As you work through your program, just tell us if there's any changes, and they'll approve them as we go along.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You're well worth the money we're paying for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Be sure and tell my wife, because that's all that matters. Anything else, gentlemen?
I will entertain a motion to approve the request as is included in the packet.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Kuntz. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Kuntz?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. And
Thank
Trent,
you.
if you
Yes, sir.
wouldn't mind just staying there for a second.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to reflect on kind of where we've come with the EDA over the past, I would say maybe decade, maybe 15 years. The Economic Development Authority was idle at one point in time, and then began working for the county to do some bond issues, not a lot of proactive, true economic development work, and then evolved forward and worked on the Cook's Corner Brew Pub project, which was a fabulous and promising project.
Mm-hmm.
We all regret that COVID was the cause of its demise. And the EDA is now working on a strategic plan. We've had a number of meetings between Don and myself and John Anzavino and the chairman of the EDA with Trent. And I'm really excited about the direction that they're going. There hasn't been a new Economic Development Authority strategic plan for 10
Since 1998.
Since 1998. Wow.
Now, there have been the
So-
regional PDC plans, but I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, continue.
So a lot's changed and a lot of opportunity has changed. In 1998, we probably didn't really even conceive that we would ever have water and sewer, not to mention broadband.
Oh, thank you.
And so I just want to, on behalf of the board, let the EDA know that we strongly support the economic development efforts that are taking place and look forward to the strategic plan being a roadmap for how we can create economic value in the county.
No, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and it is, very happy to be here. I think many of y'all know I've known Matt off and on for years. I've worked in the area for years. I was very, very excited for Middlesex and Michelle, of course, because I'd worked with her on different regional projects for that Cook's Corner project, and it's heart-wrenching when stuff like that, because there's stuff you can't control. So it's a thankless business sometimes, but you just keep plugging along, and I appreciate y'all's support, because we are in a transition mode. The EDA is recognizing that they have some greatly increased responsibilities, and so I'm trying to help them through that and help myself through it and help y'all. But thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Puller Center renovation, page 86 in your packet. Charlie, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this goes back to last month's meeting. A quick update, if you will. Hopefully you have the revised spreadsheet. At the request of the chairman, we have gone back and verified costs associated with square footage for the building itself. We contacted Mosley. On 3 occasions, we've had conversations. We identified parameters. We told them what was included, what not to be included. They calculated and crunched the numbers and came back and verified that the $275 per square foot number for option 2 was not valid. They did confirm that the cost was between $400 and $450 per square foot. Hopefully you have in your packet there the revised cost spreadsheet, which illustrates everything that Mosley incorporated. The cost went from $4.5 million to actually $6.422 million. So the difference in the options now, option 1 is renovate the existing Puller building at $4.2 million versus demo the existing building and build new on that footprint is now at $6.422 million. Based on that information, gentlemen, you have a choice between option 1 and option 2.
And you have a recommendation?
I do. I would prefer to go with option 1. Last meeting, we jointly talking with Ben and Bay Design, based on the life cycle of a proposed new building of being 50 years, we proposed option 2. Based on these new numbers, which are actual coming from Mosley, the option 1 renovation of the existing building seems to be the most economic route.
And Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Has the sheriff given an opinion on his preference?
The last time I conversed with Sheriff Bushy, I strongly recommended that he state his position, that he come to the podium and let the board know what he wants. I have not heard back.
Okay. I think we've heard individually from the sheriff, though, that, okay.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, yeah, I spoke to the sheriff, too. And as you know, the building, he likes the building with the berm and everything like that. And, I just, what kind of disappointed me was that Ben Burton put it that way. You had 30 to 40 years, and then when you get a new situation come in, the whole thing changed. But regardless of that, I'm right now, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead with option 1 to go ahead and remodel the old Puller Center and be done with it, because anything else, it's going to cost more money. And it got a building that the sheriff likes, and he wants to be there. And I'll make the motion that we go ahead and remodel the Puller Center.
Second.
So you're voting for option 1?
Option 1.
Renovation of
which is-
existing structure.
Yeah, right, okay.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Kuntz. Open for discussion.
Charlie, thanks for all the work that you've done so far. Give me a layman's view education, if you would, on building square footages. And how come that doesn't come down when gas prices come down? Just curious. That might be something you want to ponder for a while before you answer that.
No, we've thought about that.
Do we, I know we're talking about what we consider the ultimate cost is. And and I don't even know where we are on this, but on a 2-year build renovation program, is it conceivable at any point in time And who keeps an eye on what the square footage is doing out there? Or are we locked into whatever that price is that we lock in initially at, what was your number?
317.
317.
That's right. Now, to answer your question, the cost could come down between now and the time that we bid the project.
Right.
We all know that there's issues with supply.
Yes.
Material costs are going up, and that's all due to, obviously, the pandemic. But now that that's passed, we're hoping, like gas prices, that these unit costs and labor costs will come down.
Mr. Chairman, may I, just kind of piggybacking on what Wayne said earlier, I had a conversation with the sheriff, and he listed a number of items that he felt confident on, that if there was active involvement, that the prices could be better than what is predicted. So what I would recommend the board include in their motion and/or their discussions, just for consensus purposes, is granting our sheriff considerable access to whatever contractor, whatever engineer, whatever bid that goes out there. I think keeping him involved in reacting to the day-to-day developments of the project could mean a great deal on the final cost of the project. There were several ideas that he and I discussed that both he and I felt would be creative approaches to coming out of renovation, that I think as long as he's involved in the day-to-day and week-to-week developments of that project, we could receive better news at the end. And I just wanted to give voice to that for the board. I would make that part of my recommendation, going along with the renovation of number one.
Me to put that in my motion?
At your pleasure. I just wanted to mention it for
All
the
right,
record.
I would like to put that in motion that the sheriff have, how can I say this? Have the options to use local contractors to, along with my motion of remodeling, because just like he said, talking to the sheriff, equipment, materials and desks and then things like that, he can get that at a good price versus, you know, when the architects come, they looking at brand new. Right now, the sheriff is looking at every little option of what he can save for the county. That's what he's looking at right now, because I talked to him. So he's looking at all that. I think he probably got all the furniture that he needs right now at a discounted price. So I'm putting that in my motion along with that, okay?
And I'll second that as well.
Other discussion?
I got a couple of things, just a couple of things to say. I talked to the sheriff too yesterday. And just like I told him, I like to save costs any way that we can. And I said, as we started out, also you had a certain price that we started out for him. And I told even some on the board, make it very clear, we're not building an office for the sheriff. It's an office for Middlesex County. We've got to make that very clear that we're building a sheriff office for Middlesex County, because Middlesex County is going to pay for it. I don't need to know individuals' names like this is why we're doing it. But an individual did come along and said he's going to help the county to save money. That was Sheriff Bushy. And I like the article that Matt was saying, that he can do things to help save the money, save the county money, then you're driving the cost down. So I like that aspect. But once a person makes his commitment that this is what they're going to do, I just want to set, hey, you're going to do this, or you're going to change to save money. And this is kind of things that I want done. But I want to make very clear that this is something that Middlesex County is building. It's no individual is building it because they're not paying for it. But an individual is going to come along and going to save the county some money. We have went through things as far as renovation. And I've seen things which I'm a little shell-shocked that the schools didn't represent tonight. You got two people at the head that happen to go on a conference somewhere, nobody else, because how you going to save money when we meet with them next week on renovation? And we better start looking at our renovation, because a lot of them going through empowerment. A lot of places are using students to learn trades as well as doing the job while they're doing it. And I think it's Virginia Commerce. If you sit there and go up there and you'll find out about it, this is how they are saving money. Because if a large county can get money, it don't mean a small can't get it too. But they're doing some things different. If we keep on taking the bids that we pass out that everybody do, then we get the cost and we look at it at the end of the day, it's never lower. It always asking for a little bit more. Then you get change orders, which I don't use the word hate, but I hate change orders. That right, Don? I hate a change order because you ain't good enough to do your job. If you're not good enough to do your job, I don't want you.
Yep.
Okay, just as simple as that. And we got Charlie now, we're gonna hold Charlie on the knob. Right, Don?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, if I may just add to that real quick, John, because there's so much you just said there that's profoundly important, and it's lessons learned. When we built the athletic complex, we had a local individual that knew quite a bit about bleachers. And we didn't reach out to them and get some guidance that could have saved us some money. So taking the time to pause and recognize what we do have, we have a sheriff that's lived in the community for a long time. He knows people that engineers from away from here may not know. And there may be things we can do because of the people we know, or at least get some guidance and advice from them, or how to look at something a little differently and do things a little differently that could save us a lot of money. So we always reserve the right to learn. So, yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said now, Reggie. There, I'm gonna shut up.
And all I'll say is, I think over the course of the last 12 months that we've been focused on a problem that has been over 10 years on our capital projects. The sheriff hasn't changed his position. We I think, correctly took our time with this. We looked at another architect that gave us some additional perspective, but we're facing interest rates that are rising. We're facing gas rates that are going back up again. We're facing a labor shortage. We're facing material shortages. This is a horrible time to build anything, but we're late. And it's a good reminder that when our capital improvement plan says it's time, we should listen to it, because there's never a good time. We enjoyed 1% rates on the USDA loan for water. That was awesome. And that also is almost 10 years ago at this point. That's old news, right? So here we are. It's time to move forward. The sheriff hasn't changed his position. He was right all along from a cost perspective. And he's also been willing to delay this construction for 10 years. And now he's taken a hit for the team again and saying, let's go ahead and renovate an existing facility and save the county money. Where we need to go from here, once we make this vote, is we need to look at the deputies that we don't have and the deputies that we do have and the roads that are not being covered and served because we don't have adequate deputies on the road right now. And the sheriff has talked to all of us individually, not just about the renovation, but about accreditation and body cameras. And so we've talked about everything, including the building and how we're going to do it. What we need to talk about now is the people and how we get the people into those positions. And the answer is we need to pay them a living wage. And that's not what we have right now. And we have a shortage of deputies as a result. So I look forward to this vote and moving into the next part.
Just, if there are no other comments, I'll add my comments. My only concern, there seems to be a lot of confidence that this building will meet a Category 4 specification, which is required for
Risk assessment.
a police station, sheriff's office, emergency services office. And the only concern I have is that we have a structural engineer certify that it will meet those requirements. And I don't know that that's in the scope of this estimate, but I would propose that we amend the motion to make sure that we will meet the Category 4 qualifications with this building.
Yes, sir. We can perform a structural analysis at the request of the board. So if you amend the motion to include that, that's going to be additional cost, but it's still going to be much cheaper than $6.4 million.
In my motion, to make sure that they have a structural engineer for Category 4.
Second.
No further discussion? Roll call, please, Betty.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. And we have a new to the agenda, item I, which was a brief change to some sewer information?
Yes, sir. And my apologies. I had inadvertently pulled this out. We want to make sure that we did not come tonight and present when we weren't prepared. However, there was one slide in their PowerPoint that I wanted to go through because this is going to assist us in developing the all-in costs, if you will, for the project. I sent it out. Hopefully you all have a copy. Matt, can you pull it up if they don't? There we go. Okay. We'll start with topping, additional services. Basically, when we did topping, the original design was to put on the same side as the water line. Unfortunately, we put the water line in the best location of that right-of-way, which means we'd have to go outside the right-of-way and get additional easements. Rather than go through that exercise, we made the decision to push it to the other side of the road. There's only one utility that I'm aware of, broadband, is that correct? And we're in the right-of-way. So the additional cost here, the 12.5, is for designing the routing of the pipeline on the other side of the road, and then the 10,000 is for surveying that right-of-way, if you will, to allow that design to progress. The next two items are the preliminary engineering reports for both Saluda and Hartfield. Again, these reports will help assist us in determining where the routing of the piping will be and hopefully identify any potential easements that we may require. So they're asking for a total of $62,500 additional funds to perform this work. I recommend that the board approve this simply so that we can provide the all-in costs as Mr. Kuntz has requested. This will allow us to come to next month's meeting with that all-in cost that will help everyone understand where we're at. Also, I'll wait for the update.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we approve additional $62,500 for preparation of the preliminary engineering.
Well, there's two preliminary engineering reports and the additional monies for survey and design of the routing of the piping on the opposite side of the road and topping.
Is there a motion?
I got a question before we get into any motion yet.
Yes, sir.
Now, they're gonna charge, who ran the line, who done the engineering at first?
They were basing it off the original drawings.
No, but not basing it. They charge us money, right, Matt? To do the engineering, they charge us some money. All right, so they charge us money and they base what they do. These engineers are supposed to be smart people.
Well,
Now, they're supposed to be, but 62.5 saying they're not. Okay, because they put it on the wrong side of the road when most of any person that got common sense would have put it on the opposite side of the road in from day one, okay? That don't even do the work. So now we gotta pay for what they did not do because they follow something else. Am I saying it right?
You are,
So
I
my
don't
thing,
disagree.
Charlie, then why should we pay?
The original HRSD design showed it on, all right, I get my directions wrong. They would be on the northeast side of Grays Point.
Okay.
So we were designing to that. Then we realized, again, the water line took up the best location in the right-of-way, so we would have to be out of the right-of-way in order to meet the requirements to tie into HRSD, their force main. We have since gone back and asked, once we determined that we would have to get additional easements probably to route the line on that side, we looked at routing it on the other side. Then it came down to convincing HRSD to move their connection point from the, am I saying this right, northeast side to the southeast side or southwest side, on the opposite side of the road, so that our connection point would be on that side of the road, if you will.
I got you, Charlie.
And as a result, they'd gone out and surveyed, they started the design, and then came back and realized, we can't, HRSD is actually the one that put the brakes and said, no, we don't have enough clearance between the water line and the sewer line, and we'd have to go get additional easement. We said, the heck with that, let's go the other side, stay in the right of way, minimal interference with utilities, and run our piping.
And if I can add a little to what Charlie just said, originally, it was believed that we could piggyback off of some of the Water Authority and Bowman's engineering. having just engineered and surveyed the water line on the, I'm going to call it the west side of Grays Point Road, it was later determined that because of the water line's location as it was built, it kind of crowded us out of the right-of-way. It was going to push the sewer line into people's front yards, and we were going to need easements up and down the entire length of that road, when the other side of Route 3, the east side, is largely free of utilities. And we feel like we got room to be on the right-of-way, and therefore not need the easements. So there was a initial, if my memory serves again, initial thought that we could save costs on the sewer by utilizing some of the engineering work that had already been done by Bowman and the Water Authority. Well, they're charging us for design changes that we requested them to make to avoid the need of getting multiple easements through multiple property owners along Route 3.
How did you come up with this charge anyway? I mean, what kind of math we do on that? How they determine that this is the price? Everything here is zeros. So I'm just wondering, how did they come up with these prices? If I was thinking about all zeros, I was thinking something I pull out of my hat.
Yeah.
I would think something should be a little teeny bit different than what it, I'm so sick of seeing all these zeros. Every time I turn around, like everybody do math, everybody got zeros. Now, and the way I look at it, it's either you're lying to me one way or the other, because it don't add up that way. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, because the thing said you got me there because probably you already got the votes to do, because we got to do it. You added into the thing, and we didn't do it. We made some mistakes. We understand that. We should admit them. But if I'm paying an engineer to run a line somewhere, and they realize, they know that what we're trying to do, and they come in the middle of the program and charge me $62,500 to say, hey, we got to sit down in the classroom now. And Jordy's, well, some of them got good. It's just a van, engineering up top, so I know that don't
You're talking
mean a whole lot.
22.5.
Where's that?
22,500. The other 40,000 is for the PERs that we haven't performed yet. So I understand what you're saying.
That's a good point that we need to make sure is
Yeah.
clear. The $40,000 highlighted here are the supplemental engineering, supplemental PERs that are needed to basically take the engineering that's already been done for various collection systems like gravity sewers within those service areas. And I guess I'm going to use the word supplemental PER to convert that to an LPS type system, because the gravity systems were coming in inordinately expensive. And just refreshing some of the discussion, Hartfield, I believe, had 17-foot deep manholes designed that were going to be incredibly costly to install. So we've asked them to come in and design us an LPS system, whereas before Hampton Road Sanitation District only wanted gravity.
And to put it in perspective, the system that they're putting in at Cook's Corner, it's got a 24-foot deep wet well, because that's a gravity feed
We
system.
couldn't catch that one before it already
Yeah,
got bid, and
They were already out, that bids were out before we caught that, but it's 24 feet deep. I wouldn't want to go down there.
They got machines to do it. Deeper in the ground, you don't have to worry about it.
But the simple answer to your question, Mr. Williams, is it's a fixed fee, not to exceed. So,
I would be honest, we may approve, but you're not going to satisfy me with an answer on this question, because I just don't feel that it comes up right.
I beat them down. I mean,
Won't you beat them down now? Now we on the
it's a
same
fixed
page.
fee not to exceed, so if it's 16,000, sorry, you're only getting 12.5. That's it. So that was the concession they gave me, so that's all they'll get.
Mr. Chair, now I would like to say, by running on on Dominion side, you don't have to, see, you're under the right of way, right? So
VDOT right of
you don't
way.
have to worry about all the getting all the buying up, and it's less cumbersome, put it that way.
Yes, sir.
You can just go zoom, and I wish somebody had the foresight prior to that, but nobody did. And I understand that when you got a sewer line, a water line, you got to be at least 10 feet apart, right? I had that changed.
Nope.
Hadn't changed. Got to be at least 10 feet apart, so you can't take both of them, put them in the same ditch. So I'm just looking at it, Down the road, you just think about it, it's gonna run much smoother and gonna cost less. I mean, well, everything gonna cost. But on the other side, you're on the right of way. So you ain't gotta go to court
Yeah.
dealing with this person and that person and trying to find them. Well, I'm preaching to the choir over there, because they know all about it, what you had to do with the water.
Well,
It's not easy.
It's a poor dog that doesn't
Huh?
wag his tail
I
every
bet
now
it's a
and then.
nightmare. I bet it's a nightmare.
But-
Well, we know it, dealing with people, that's what it is.
As the construction manager for the water project, we put the water line, we routed the water line in the most efficient way and avoided all the utilities. So now they're coming back into play. HRSD wants 10 feet on either side of their sewer line. So not only do we have to have 10-foot separation, we have to have 10 feet on the other side as well. So if we continue on that side of the road, we would have to go outside the right of way, and our easement would have to be an additional 10 feet plus whatever other square footage that we may need just to get equipment in there and maintain. So going to the other side of the road was the right move. Agreed, we should have had the foresight. I don't want to say that's before my time because I'm here now. We'll solve the problem.
Well, like I began to say, and I didn't want to interrupt, it's a poor dog that doesn't wag his own tail. Some of us did have some foresight. We assumed the sewer lines would be on the opposite side of the road. But again, the engineers thought we could save some money if we piggybacked on Bowman. And therefore, we went along with that. It was apparent after we done some engineering, though, that it was going to require a lot of right-of-way and easements along that route from the property owners. And that's where being on the other side of the road made some sense. I'll just state it for record, I presume all of the sewer lines, when and where possible, will be on the opposite side of the road so we can enjoy access to the right-of-way and avoid being in people's front yards if we can help to. Unless there's a good engineering reason or financial reason to be on the same side of the road as water lines, it just stands to reason. We got to maintain 10-foot separation from water lines. That, by default, pretty much puts us on the other side of the road, unless there's a compelling reason not to be. So I don't want to lose that opportunity. That was the initial thought, but thinking we could save some money and some time and maybe piggyback on some engineering that had already been done, which I think largely Timmons did. We tried to put it on the same side as the water line. So there we go.
So Timmons gave us, this is supposed to be our engineer, and they told us it would be better to go on that side, the road, to file our engineering and save money. And now we got to go put in Timmons over $62,000. They gave us advice to do it with, right?
Well, again, you can't put the Saluda PER and the Hartfield PER in that amount. The additional surveying and the engineering services for topping is 22.5. Yeah. I don't think so. I don't recall that. But in any event, I would double the county engineer's recommendation that we approve these additional fees, and we kind of move forward with a Saluda PER and a Hartfield PER. And we will have more information back for the board in November or December on Deltaville, which is the big game in town, so to speak.
And that's what we've been working on, is that we need some of the PERs so that we can start telling you the additional cost as well. Because these easements are going to be a little different than what we did with water. They're wider. And so I just want to say that was another big incentive to go to the other side of the road, is it was going to increase costs because we weren't just taking maybe 10 feet. Now we have to have so much more space to meet HRSD requirements. It's much more invasive to the property owners. And we're very mindful of that, trying to limit how much we are.
Well, and not to keep doubling up comments, but it just stands to, it's worth mentioning that, and probably acknowledging here, that we're trying to retrofit water and sewer systems into communities that were designed and laid out without them present. So we're the last utility to the party here When, if you look at a normal subdivision development, the developer's first thing is going to be to put in the water and sewer lines, and then the power, telephone, and everything else comes in after the fact. So they dodge water and sewer. It's much harder to dodge existing utilities with water and sewer because they're just bigger utilities. They take up more room, and it's a much more challenging prospect to try to retrofit these types of utilities in the communities that were designed and laid out without them. As kind of a standing order or preference priority, I will put it, Charlie,
Yeah.
we try to stay in the right of way and not require any easements from private property owners. That's the first priority. Second priority, if we can, and it's economical to do so, we'll try to place sewers within and under the pavement of the road. Again, it's got to be economical to do so because replacing pavement's expensive. But the good thing about sewer is once you get it in the ground, you don't have to dig it up that much. It's very rare to have a sewer leak like a water leak.
That's correct. And we're coordinating with VDOT on that effort. So.
Last and third priority is to work with private property owners on easements because it inflates the cost of the project and annoys private property owners. If they want sewer, they'll give you an easement. If they don't want sewer, they'll see Heather in court. And so we try to avoid that at all costs.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make the motion that we pay the additional service fee of $62,500.
Thank you, Mr. Jessup.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Any further discussion? My only comment is we're on a path here to get good numbers, good estimates, so avoid surprises in the future, manage this project economically, and so I see this as an investment, particularly the two PERs.
Yes, sir.
It's an investment in lowering our capital costs dramatically, and so I'm fully in support of this.
Thank you.
We got motion duly made and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
Mr. Coontz? Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes, and Mr. Coontz mentioned to me as he left that he was in support of the project.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
John.
sir.
Right, moving ahead to regular agenda items. Citizen appointments. Betty, I know that there is an amendment to the citizen appointments.
Yes, and I believe
And-
Tammy Lynn included that on your, at your
With
seat.
respect to the airport committee,
Yes.
Mr. Williams has requested that we postpone entertaining this appointment until next month's meeting, and I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, then you only have one application for consideration from Emily Davies to be appointed to the Keep Middlesex Beautiful Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Next, we have
We have budget supplement. Let me get over there. The county has received allocation from the state for this fire programs fund that is divided between the three volunteer fire departments. I'm sure you know, but the fourth fire department, Middlesex Volunteer Fire Department, receives their allotment of fire programs money from the town. That's why there's only three listed here. So,
I'll make the motion to be approve the budget supplement request from FY 2023-13.
Second.
motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion? Roll call,
you
please.
guys are just on a roll. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, the airport grant.
And that-
Mr. Flynn
Yes, I'll ask Mr. Flynn to handle that because he has more of an update on who hopefully will be covering this than.
Good afternoon, everybody. So on the lighting and PAPI question, there was an email, Betty received an email from the Department of Aviation saying that you have to put that out to bid. Well, I talked with Jeff Gore this morning about it because he had been more involved in he does more PPTA projects than I do, and he's involved, of course, with drafting a comprehensive agreement with Delaware Corporation. Anyway, no, it's when you do a public-private transportation project like this, and in this case, when under Section 7 of the master agreement, the comprehensive agreement, Del Corp agrees to provide for the complete turnkey design and construction of the project at the sole cost and expense of Del Corp. It is Del Corp that's on the hook for purchasing the lights and the PAPIs. And of course, that will get submitted to the Department of Aviation for reimbursement. But in that circumstance, under Virginia Code Section 33.2, 1819, the Procurement Act simply doesn't apply. So it'll take a little bit of education for the staff at the Department of Aviation, and it makes sense. This is a very unusual way from the department's perspective to get these projects done.
It's the first one in the state.
It's the first one in the state that they've ever seen, for sure. So anyway, I don't think there's any concern there. I think we're okay there. And I have to get Jeff to work with the department on asking the department to make any changes because of the one-year lobbying thing. Not that I haven't talked with them a fair amount recently, but anyway.
So no action is needed on this.
Very good. Any questions?
Just for the lighting, in essence, in layman terms, then they still will get the funding 80/20 at the end of the day, or you not?
It's eligible, that it would be an eligible piece of the project, yes, for sure. The county is always in competition with all of the other airports for the funding each time. So it can be it ends up really being a question of when, not if, but it's clearly eligible.
Right, and they can still go ahead and do it in advance and
Yes.
then report it in later, because I think it was by November, right, you could get an answer.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a board meeting in November where you've already submitted application for funding. And there are a few things we'll talk about in closed session, if you don't mind about
Okay,
that.
all
I'd ask you to do closed session anyway.
I'm good.
That are a few timing issues that go along with that, but anyway.
Mr. Flynn, I may have missed it, or maybe it wasn't included. Do we have an estimate of what the new lighting would potentially cost?
I think Betty.
I believe, well, it was
Okay.
164,000, 165,000 was the total.
Okay. Is this something
And-
different here? Oh, 164 total. Okay,
Right.
I'm with you.
And now, what has changed from this memo is that Mr. Flynn has said that he believes that the lighting projects are part of the comprehensive agreement.
I heard that, yes.
And if they are, then they should be eligible for that funding.
Correct,
And the county would not be responsible for the 20%.
right.
So Delaware Corporation would pay the monies up front, and then we would seek reimbursement for that, and then that reimbursement gets turned over to him.
Good. Thanks.
And
Mr. Flynn.
yeah, I mean, certainly the lighting, it was known from the beginning of the project that it had to be redone. Will say, just from a practical side, I'm very happy I think you're going to LED lighting or LCD.
The question was whether or not, I think Mr. Barber had included to just replace what was there.
Yeah, just move it over.
Move it over and add new to it. This proposal is for new lighting,
Yeah.
new LEDs, which are more expensive.
It's more expensive to install, a lot less expensive life cycle.
maintain.
Maintaining, the incandescent bulbs burn out like we all remember, and now these things basically don't. By the way, and it's an electronic PAPI, precision approach path indicator lights. And what it is when you're coming in, you see a white light over a red light. That's really going to help people, particularly people who don't know the airport, particularly landing to the north when they're coming in over Route 3, to make sure they don't to help them not get low and therefore hit the UPS truck or whatever it is. Because we definitely wouldn't want to disrupt somebody's Amazon package getting there on time. It's a serious safety improvement. That's really, I'm glad to see that going in.
Great, thank you, Mark. All right, next is YMCA membership. Anne Marie?
That would be me, thank you. As part of a goal of employee wellness, can you hear? I reached out to the local YMCA to see if they would offer an employee discount. They do offer the county a discount where the employees would get a percentage off the posted rates plus waive the enrollment fee. But the gig includes that the county has to pay a portion of each participant's discount. Employee wellness is important to all of us. It tends to decrease absenteeism, improve morale, reduce injuries, as well as it tends to improve employee attraction and retention. Despite my enthusiasm, however, I will say I estimate maybe 20 employees would join. The annual cost to the county, if we do get that many employees to join, would be about $2,500 per year. I certainly would recommend offering this to both full-time and part-time employees. If we started this for employees, does everyone know what the YMCA is, right? It's a fitness center right here, about halfway between here and Deltaville. So it offers fitness equipment as well as classes for wellness, including food and just general yoga, the fun things that people like to do. So anyway, if we started this for employees, say effective January 1st, as a New Year's resolution type incentive, the first year cost could be about $1,250. We could evaluate its effectiveness, see if it actually works, and see if it's worth continuing for the budget year. I recommend and request, I encourage this opportunity to improve the employees' wellness, to offer this benefit to our employees, and recommend the board consider approval of a contract between the county and the YMCA for this group participation. That's all.
And would this, county employees, does that include teachers and employees of the school system?
They would have their own. I only included, when I did this, I only was counting on us. But they would certainly be able to, if you'd like me to bring this. They could have their own contract, but I'll bring it to their attention. The school district, I believe, has a lot of enthusiasm over at the Riverside Wellness Center. We, too, have a contract with the Riverside Wellness Center, but at this time, nobody participates. Their contract, county members pay $39, so if I wanted to join there, it's $39 per person. But again, their records don't show that any of us county members, or any of us county employees are participants. Nice thing about the Riverside Wellness Center is it does have a pool. The our local YMCA does not have a pool.
But it's not just the employee, the board would be eligible for it too, would they not?
It would, right. If I expected to extend this to board members, the part-time employees. I think it's good for good health, and there's nothing wrong with caring about our employees like that.
The other question that I had, one of the services that the YMCA provides to the county is childcare and school drop-off and school pickup and that sort of thing. And I just am curious whether membership creates an additional benefit for those who had children who might need childcare or school drop-off or pickup. And you may not know the answer. I'm just curious whether this benefit could enhance parents that are trying to deal with all their children while they're still trying to get their exercise or go to work.
I do have their let's see, it's no joint fees, priority invitation. I thought it said member rate pricing for all programs. So I think that's what you're talking about. I did not print out what their programs were,
Okay.
but it does include a discount for all of their programs. And it also includes, so your children would get a discounted rate too. So if, for children, that they have a teen wellness orientation and teen wellness, so it includes wellness for kids. They have group cycling, they have something called Tabata, body design, chair yoga. They do have a bunch of very good programs regardless of age. But I don't see, free child care for up to 2 hours while you work out is included in family memberships. Is that
Right.
what you were asking for? And again, the group exercise classes are free. As a side note, they said if we got enough employees interested, they might start, let's say that there are 5 or 6 of us who are really interested in yoga, but we couldn't make it to their 3 o'clock because we still work. They said, that's all right, you tell us, we will be happy to work a program around what works for you. But and they're not going to do it if just Anne Marie joins, but if we get enough participation, they will even start doing some programs around our interests.
Thank you.
I just got one question. With the membership in Tompkins, Hartfield, would that be you could go to Matthews, you go to Kilmarnock, or could you go to the one in Newport News? That's my question.
Great question. They have 2 levels of memberships, and the discount would apply to either. For one membership, you are simply a member here. For the other membership, which is a little bit higher cost, you have a membership to all of the YMCA's, which would include the Kilmarnock, which I think has the pool, Williamsburg. So you have that option. So for me, if I was joining, I would only join local because it's on the way home. However, for some people who live outside or who really like swimming, they may want to join the group. It's about $15 more, I think, a month to have the full access, something like that. The 30% discount will apply to whatever the rate is. So whatever your rate is, the discount would be 30%. Of that, the county pays half of it, 50% of that, and then the discount is actually the 15%. So do you follow my logic on that? I'll give you an example. For me, let me make sure I've got this right. For me, the membership is about $45 a month. If we go with this program, I'm not a member, but if we go with this program, the county would pay $750, and I would pay about $30. So that the discount is in there somewhere, that it's $750 of a discount, $750 the county picks up, and I pay the $30. And that's how it adds up to the $45 original price. And again, in that case, the $50 registration fee is removed. Do you follow that? Because I think I tried to meet with you all to make sure that it's actually that easy. And as a member, you would have to have it bank drafted, I think. You have to have your own membership fees bank drafted. And for the county share, they'll bill me once a month.
Thank you for putting that together. Is there a motion to move ahead with this?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Administrator, your updates.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have 3 items I want to brief the board on tonight. First one is our continuing efforts to work with our partners at DEQ and HRSD and the Virginia Resources Authority to close our Cook's Corner Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund loan. HRSD had to get a DEQ some additional information regarding the project budget and an estimated completion date and other odds and ends. And we think we've gotten DEQ all they need in order to greenlight our loan with the VRA, which has already been pre-approved, but we had to expand the amount given the cost of the bid. Hope to have closing documents in front of the board at their meeting in November. The next item we have is, we've been batting around how we're going to pay for the sheriff's office, and part of that discussion is potentially the renovation at the high schools. I'm going to ask our financial advisor, Davenport and Associates, to prepare a perspective of what private market rates we can enjoy on the sheriff's office if we sought a private market loan through our EDA, trying to get the B bank qualified rating on a private market loan. And I'm also going to further investigate, really regardless of the outcome of the discussions on the 10th, furthering along the prospect of getting funding through the USDA. We had, I think, a fairly fruitful meeting with Bay Design, Ben Burton, myself, and Tara Delaney, going through some of the additional requirements that the USDA would require, not in an effort to hold the project up by any stretch of the imaginations, but I think we would at least benefit from knowing the interest rate savings and what the effect on the timetable and the schedule of the project would be by going the USDA route. And I'm going to try to, between now and November, look for other funding sources for borrowing the money to construct the project, including internal financing, where we loan ourselves the money from our own fund balance and pay it back over time. We'll look at any and all type of approaches to do that. And the last thing, and perhaps the most important thing that I wanted to mention to the board, is a grant opportunity, a new grant opportunity through DEQ called the Sewer Collection System Grant Fund that was established with the Infrastructure Act monies recently made available to the states. I will be working very hard with Charlie to put together substantial grant packages to apply for grant funds to fund some of the sewer collection systems that the county wishes to try to deploy. And let, yes, and I'll let you brief them on that next month. That's a very good component piece. There's also some grant funds that PDC staff, I think, are going to be pursuing to help remediate septic tank and drain field rehab work for people not on sewer systems. So the open grant period for the DEQ Sewer Collection System Grant Fund runs between October 15th and I think December 31st. Is that correct, Charlie? We hope to get in first with the most and work with DEQ on getting our fair share of those monies in light of our shovel-ready status in many of these cases. Reminder to the board, we are already approved under the Clean Water Revolving Loan Act for all of the sewer systems we wish to deploy with the exception of Locust Hill, and that's because we kind of put that one on a phase 2 approach. So DEQ knows us. We're already approved under the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund for our sewer systems. And we hope to try to receive some grant funding for at least one or two, or maybe all. I wouldn't be optimistic to think we would get all of them approved under the grant because there's limited grant funds available. But that is going to be probably my greatest concentration over the next month, is making sure we put together the strongest application for those grant funds possible so we can get our share of that Federal Infrastructure Act money. That was all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
That's great. Great news. Thank you. County Attorney update.
Yes, sir. So I am wrapping up some loose ends with the Water Authority. And one of those items is in your packet. Matt, can you pull it up on the screen, please? It's page 105 of the packet. The short version is talking about Cook's Corner, the old Rappahannock Elementary School property. The county owned, school board owned it, surplused it, gave it to the county. In the transition between the county owning it and conveying to the EDA, we put the Water Authority, knowing to the county and everybody, put in water lines. And then there was some potential for economic development, and there was lots of back and forth. Anywho, where we are today is we need to solidify an easement from the county to the Water Authority, where the water line essentially goes across 3 pieces of the county's property. And you'll see it on the site plan on your screen. It's just a little tiny sliver on one parcel, but there's a fire hydrant located there, and it runs along the property line. And this is the standard easement agreement that we have used for the other easements the county has given the water authority. I just want you to go back up to the site plan. Thank you. So that's the long of the short of it. It's been one of those ones that I kind of got shoved to the back of the pile, and those economic development opportunities didn't go forward, so.
Can you just orient me as to what this primary parcel is on General Fuller Highway? What?
Yes,
there?
Matt, I'll let you, I know you like to.
Oh, do I get an opportunity to use Google Earth?
That's the old 27-122 is the old RCE property. And then, I don't,
Between the old RCE property and the dog park property.
yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
Betty.
I got you. So the easement
Yeah, and
is
I'll-
behind the RCE property?
It is, yes.
Essentially,
Okay,
yes.
I got you.
The well house is, the well house is located directly in front of the kid building near the gravel parking lot.
Right.
The easement runs along what was the property line between the county property and the EDA, and then out to the road.
Got you. Okay.
And so, like I said, just tying up loose ends. So this does take a vote. No public hearing is required because it's an easement, and it's an easement to another governmental entity, a political subdivision of the Commonwealth. So it's exempt from that requirement. And the water line is there and functioning, so nice to formalize it with our actual deed of easement. And then this will go before the Water Authority for their approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Is there a motion to approve the deed? Or the easement?
Also move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else?
Yep, just sometime this week, if you'll come by, I'll have you sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, unfinished business, airport purchase of land. Mr. Flynn. Oh, there you are.
And
Still here.
And for this one, there's also a handout at your desk. There was a little, the information that's on the online packet is correct. It just, the pieces of paper got out of order, so we reorganized those, and you have a paper insert.
This is the deed document in our handout.
Yes, sir, the
Yeah.
deed and the agreement of sale. And with that, I turn it back over to Mr. Flynn.
And of course, this is the piece of property that is not a part of the airport project itself, but it's adjacent. It's a fantastic opportunity for the county to acquire it. So it's the 6 acres, it's $300,000. And so pretty straightforward. It would not be would not be part of the funding from the Department of Aviation. It's again standalone. And so if the board is ready to move forward with that, then it would just require motion to approve the contract, which then also has the deed involved with it.
This is a property that we're talking about to the far right that butts up to the campground?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So-
And that's shown on Resolution R2022-010, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's what I was going to add, that the board can adopt the resolution to authorize the purchase of 6 acres of real property from Delaware Corp., plus or minus 6 acres. And that should authorize, and you can authorize the agreement of sale.
So move on that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye. Matter carries.
Sorry?
Just to clarify that that purchase price is for $300,000. Thank you. I just want that to be in the record.
Mr. Chairman, just for future reference for our IT staff here, I was just able to upload Google Earth. So we got to work on that there, Kevin.
I thought we had
I
banned
couldn't
that.
get it up
I thought-
fast enough. We're already moved on.
All right.
I thought I had unplugged that. Kevin and I had a deal.
Anything else?
No, I'm just actually, sir, I guess, waiting for the 8AB, the amendment to the comprehensive agreement.
Which I don't think we need.
I think you actually don't need that now. There may be one next month regarding the aviation easements purchase, but yeah, so I don't think you need that now. It was originally for the PAPI and the lighting, and again, because that's, yeah.
Very good, thank you. Thanks, Lauren. All right, next, any new business? Seeing none, matters presented to the board, Mr. Jesse.
Let's see. Went to the planning commission meeting. Oh, I'll put the mic on. There we go. Back on. No, I did attend the planning commission district meeting. We went over a lot of things, but they're getting things straight with what happened. They got that. We're getting things straight with that. But it's very cumbersome doing business right now. And also they talked about rising water 30 years from now, and how a lot of your waterfront properties are going to be devalued. So they're looking down the road about, what are you going to do? And if your waterfront properties are getting less, that means the inland property is going to be paying more, if you think about it. But we're looking 30, 40 years down the road. So they were looking at things like that. And what else did I attended the River County Community Foundation. We met over at Belle Isle. And as you know, with the stock market, things are not good. We did lose about $4 million, but with a $33 million budget, it's going to, you weigh it out. You weigh it out. So you got about $33 million budget. It's down to about 28 now, I think, and it's going to fluctuate, but you just ride it out. It'll come back because with that foundation, there's a lot of funds there that they can do on that. Also Zoom with the Heritage Committee. We had a Zoom meeting with them, and also, like I said, Flint was there. They were asking different questions to Flint. Flint Funk. I don't know where I got Flint from.
Trent.
Trent.
Trent Funkhauser.
Trent Funkhauser. I get it straight in a minute. But basically, they were just getting things organized. Getting your president and treasurer and all that reorganized so we can have a good committee, and also met with Dave from the foundation to get everything together. And right now they're just still planning and getting things in order for grant money. And I think that's about it for my committee meeting.
Very good, Don?
No committee reports per se. The museum is continuing with their process of what they're doing to upgrade the information dispersal to the county and how they want to do what they need to do with that. You and I, the chairman and I, sat on the EDA steering committee. I was very pleased with how that meeting went. I think they're definitely getting engaged and going into the right direction. We have some strategic plans that we're asking them to put together, and I think they're going to be extremely busy over the next several years with the potential amount of projects, and with water and sewer being a big project here, what that might bleed into for them to be able to help the county going forward. And that's the only reports that I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
You know, I went to the Middle Peninsula Planning meeting, and I found it pretty interesting. I guess I look at things a little different because, like Brother Jesse said a few minutes ago, they were saying that you'll think water view is going to be valued more than waterfront. Well, I look at things a little different. I look at things like sometimes you're selling a seed, you know, because instead of saying, you know, you're saving the land from erosion. Make it simple. The things you can go out and do to save your land from erosion. But yet I'm hearing the idea of water view is going to worth more than waterfront. See, I don't buy that concept, okay? I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I think it's a host, but I think it's a selling. Because tell me sometimes it's not really what you hear, it's what you don't hear. And when people say something, sometimes they don't tell you, they don't mean to tell you what you really hear. And that's just a thought that I look at it. And I'm gonna repeat it just one more time. Water view. So if you got water view, and I think we had somebody in our district, they was complaining about somebody was in front of them that had water view and all this kind of stuff. All you could do is be patient. I don't believe in a whole lot of decreases, you know. You can't, because I don't believe in somebody else paying for what you do. You decide, make a decision, and somebody else shouldn't. You shouldn't shuffle it so much. And I also think it's probably maybe a little part in it that's going on now when you're doing reevaluation of your property because you took notice, for instance, when we done our last evaluation that more people complaining inland, how come our property is going up? You know, going back through history, things are not done by accident. If a person think of an idea, they sell the idea. And I would say us, that sometimes we don't pay enough attention to what us need that we overlook. But I'm just learning. That's just how I look at some things. Just like I was saying, Anne Marie, what's the difference between being honest and trust? I asked her the question, I guess, about 6 months ago. And think about that. What's the difference? But anyway, I just wanted to, that's the only main thing I said that I wanted to say. Water view would be less than waterfront there. It's almost funny for me to laugh at, but it might not be funny for everybody else. And it's a lot of us going to look at it differently because they're going to believe what somebody's telling them. So anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. The only thing I would add for my report is I checked in with the research associate for the Historic Courthouse Committee, Tyler Radabaugh, and he's made good progress. There's a lot of material. There's so much history here, but he's continuing to knock down the paintings, the portraits, the artifacts that we have in the courtyard and elsewhere in this building to develop this historic detailed perspective as the first step towards us moving to contextualization and making this courthouse a meaningful story about the history of the courthouse. So he is making progress. He's also very busy with his schoolwork and other things, but we're moving along. That's all that I had for matters for the board. I'll reopen the meeting for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I will. Russ Perkinson, I'm trustee of some property, includes Prospect at 2847 Grace Point Road. I listened with interest. I was rather surprised to see that purchase agreement in the board package. I thought maybe it had something to do, I wasn't understanding, with what I understood was going to be a donation from Delaware Corporation of some land as part of that comprehensive agreement. studied that agreement pretty thoroughly back when it was put in place, and I'm probably not recalling, precisely how it worked, but I thought there was that area you're talking about, I thought was the donation area that was going to be included, provided by Delaware Corp. So I'm kind of surprised, not saying, maybe I'm misinterpreting something, not really understanding where a purchase for $300,000 comes into play. I wondered if it had something to do with being able to use that for match, but it sounds like it's land off to the side that I thought was included in that initial agreement with it. That land is going to be subject to airspace restrictions because of your county zoning ordinance. You're not really going to be able to build a whole lot there that close to the runway. It probably, standing back from it, it might have some recreational access value if somebody doesn't mind recreating kind of underneath the flight path, takeoff and landing path of an airport. So that's the only comment I have. I guess I'm not understanding the situation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Anyone else wish to address the board? I'll close public comment. We're only 20 minutes behind schedule. I'd like to point out that this is a record. Next on our agenda is a closed session, and Heather, would you please instruct us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we need a closed session to pursuant to Virginia Code Section, we need a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A3 and A8. This is for the board's discussion and consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose related to the public airport, where discussions in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, and for consultation with legal counsel regarding the specific legal questions about said acquisition of real property.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Williams. Are we expecting any action to result? We are not.
No, and I think there is a desire to potentially use this room, but we are not expecting to take action.
So from the public standpoint, there basically no other content in this meeting until we reconvene at 7?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So shall we excuse the public and have our closed session here?
That's your choice. You chairman.
That's what I would like to do.
You're politely excusing the public.
We need to take the vote.
Vote. Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.